Hi, everybody. It is the first TF of 2023, and the instruction that you're going to receive from us is to take all of your old acquaintances. Forget them. They're gone. You're getting all new friends. No old acquaintances.
We're your friends now. We're your family. Give us all of your money. Move into our compound. And, await further instructions.
Happy New Year to you, our listeners, and to you, 2/5 of the people that do this podcast with me.
Yeah, the sun god Ra has once again allowed a pair of scarabs to sort of rotate the sun across the sky enough times to make it a new year. And we hope for a felicitous flood and a tall pyramid.
Well, according to this editorial in The Economist, what if that did actually happen? As the New Year's message in The Economist.
A priestly cast of The Economist.
Yeah. So the a New Year's message from The Economist goes, it goes, standing bird, man doing a hand gesture, standing bird. It goes, what the editorial is entitled, and this is probably from the last issue of the year. What if things in Britain just go right next year?
What if that,
Which of the stages of grief is that?
I think it's sort of it's the one between bargaining and acceptance.
Does pyramid scheme count as a stage of grief?
It's not even denial anymore. It's just delusion. It's like Hitler bunker stuff. It's like Army Group Steiner is going to come and destroy the Red Army before they can liberate Berlin.
So they say, and then this is what they say, right? Is that it's been screwed up so badly by sort of some combination of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss and various sort of circumstances outside of our control that we decided to remove all of the safeguards against because it was slightly too expensive. They say, look, basically after that, after a year like this, Britain will find it hard to surprise on the downside again, which means we are setting the bar.
Faith. There are more things.
Low.
There are more things in Britain than are dreamt of in your philosophy, The Economist.
Yeah, Britain is kind of like the global politics equivalent of Kanye West. We always find a new way to surprise you. We always find new depths to plumb.
Very anti-Semitic also.
We also kind of reached our peak in arguably 2008, 9.
Had
maybe
one
earlier.
or two good albums.
Yeah. We've been cucked by Pete Davidson somehow.
First, and most modestly, it could be a year of political stability, and this refers to boring old Rishi taking over from exciting but harmful Kwarteng and Truss.
Looking at the sort of avalanche of strikes coming down the mountain, smaller versions of which have already, been very successful at creating sort of untold amounts of disorganization and discord, and being yeah, but what if it's snow, right? It just goes over us. It's fine.
Oh, yeah, I flew into Heathrow yesterday and the fucking border force were on strike. I had my passports checked by the fucking Royal Logistics Corps. I mean, if you manage to make the ultra cops go on strike, I feel like it's not going well for you.
So it's sort of one of those quirks of labor organizing that Home Office and border enforcement staff are represented by the PCS, which is surprisingly militant. Just a weird little thing about unions in this country.
So, speaking of, it says it is true that by the way, bearing what Alice just said in mind, right, that there is this avalanche of strikes coming down the pipe, inflation remains high, and that the government is essentially, and everywhere that the government, that Westminster government has not been involved in negotiating pay, these strikes have been resolved. For example, in Eurostar, the Westminster government's not resolved, the strikes have been resolved, and everyone's agreed to get back to work.
Scotland, even. I mean, we'll see what happens there, but the Scottish government has been sort of more willing to capitulate to nurses, as well they might, than Westminster has been.
And indeed, right. So bearing all of that in mind, what they say, and the fact that Rishi and his ministers and sort of mandarins are largely preventing this from happening, the argument is that revolutionaries no longer look like winners and moderates seem like a better bet.
What's really funny is that Ken Clark, of all people, said the quiet part loud. Unfamiliar from him, I know. Where he was, I think he was quoted in the Times, I want to say, where saying that, like, the point of doing this, the point of sort of standing athwart this this sort of like wave of strikes, is because people can't afford to learn that striking is an effective means of like intervention, because otherwise you might have to like negotiate every pay rise from now on, and obviously we can't have that. You can't govern the country like that if you're Ken Clark. So
it's we don't negotiate with terrorists, but in this case the terrorists are getting you on the train safely and helping a surgery be performed on you.
If we choose to live our lives differently and award different pay deals, the nurses brackets terrorists win.
Nurses wanting to be paid a living wage is the thin end of the wedge of the nursing union flying a Boeing 747 into Big Ben. That's all I'm saying. Like, and you can't argue with facts.
So what they say, right, is that there is a sort of general air of competence, and you can tell because I'm about to read you the next sentence, which is a real sentence printed in, again, unsurprisingly, The Economist, right? Even when the prime minister is taking a populist position on issues such as asylum seekers, he does it with a 5-point plan, leading me to ask, what populist position on asylum seekers is improved by a 5-point plan?
It's the form over the function, isn't it? I mean, like, no evil man could have like a 5-point plan.
No, of course. They tend to go with 3 or 8.
Absolutely.
5, no way.
If you have a 5-point plan, even if all 5 of those points are, I am going to kick the shit out of you, that demonstrates that you are a politician of profound seriousness.
5 is a reasonable number of points. It is more detailed than, I think, the more slapdash 3, but less prescriptive than the needlessly over-the-top 8.
Labour might introduce a 6th point on the populist plan to deal with asylum seekers.
Well, to encourage them to go further.
Yeah, absolutely. So they also write, a less doctrinaire approach to Europe. Again, sure, but
maybe we'll just like
that?
pretend that Brexit has gone away. That's not very doctrinaire. I mean, that does seem to be the sort of policy right now, is we just try and ignore it, hope no one notices, and then question mark, and then we become Switzerland. So, that's not a doctrine. They're right. It isn't a doctrine. It isn't even a plan. It doesn't even have 1 point, let alone 5.
And also, but so basically, right, their argument is things will be better if we have an overall air of seriousness in government, if we'll sort of have a more sort of conciliatory approach to the EU. But also their third one is, and a loosening of the labor market will be welcome news for readers of The Economist. And if you're wondering, hey, wait a minute, what does a loosening of the labor market mean? It means slightly higher unemployment. Thank you, Economist. Amazing.
Good. We have to discipline labor with unemployment and with the repression of strikes. I mean, it's cool that The Economist has been writing the same line essentially for 100 years now at this point, more than.
Yeah, of course.
Never gets old.
Look, playing the hits.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. They could have just taken their article in support of Pinochet and done some like find and replace and deleted the words death squads, and then
well, the thing about Pinochet is that like throwing someone out of a helicopter, that's a plan that requires at least 5 points. Because point 1, you got to get the helicopter. Point 2, put the dissident in the helicopter. Point 3, take off the helicopter. Point 4, throw them out of the helicopter. Point 5, land the helicopter again. It's comprehensive. It's very
Treat
serious.
yourself to a little snack.
Exactly. That's the Labour, the Labour amendment to that point 6, little snack on the way home.
Yeah. Well, and also in Britain, that would require like the army having a functioning helicopter, which I think is, a bit far-fetched.
Yeah. Throwing you off a grounded helicopter, you fall about 4 feet out of the thing, just go, ow, and then they pick you back up and throw you back out again. If we do this enough times, eventually you're going to stop striking.
Yeah, the cumulative fall will be enough to kill you after.
Doing sort of like a long-term NFL brain injury to like organized labor.
So are you saying that the plan is basically what, to like just like kite organized labor and then slowly make them go, oh
yeah, 1 hit point damage every time. This will work.
They also talk about that there are glimmers of hope in the domestic labor market, where high levels of economic inactivity have been a big problem. Now, they say that the reduction in levels of economic activity has been driven by 50 to 64-year-olds going back to work. Awesome. Perfect. Amazing.
Yeah, great. That's
have been
a good
glimmers.
thing.
Glimmers. We're seeing glimmers.
The solution here is, and not to keep mining the Nazi analogy here, right? But like, since Marx already, helpfully mentioned the reserve army of labor for me, we're literally getting into like the Volkssturm here, right? Like old men, like the very old, the very young, the infirm, all of these can be pressed into service in like the checkouts at Aldi or whatever, and thus we will rescue the economy.
So if you remember, you said right? The Czech Aldi. We're building a Czech version of Aldi. It's pretty similar.
If you recall, one thing we talked about a few months ago, in fact, on the last All Remote episode we did, was the fact that in many towns in Britain outside of London, the replacement for the pension, for the social safety net, and so on, is to just go get a warehouse job at Amazon, which has seen its average age creep up. To which the Economist says, thank goodness, we are going to see a reduction in labor market inactivity among the very old, and again, possibly infirm, who are being forced back into work, despite, it being a monstrous thing to do. And additionally, overall, however, while the level of economic inactivity will drop, we also see slackening in the workforce generally, which means higher unemployment. So, hey, maybe Britain will be saved from this hell by, as we say, getting all the 64-year-olds into an Amazon warehouse, Rishi Sunak making 5-point plans for, like getting the fucking Navy to put depth mines in the channel, and then just a general sense of sort of seriousness. So, thank you very much, Economist.
And this is the upshot of all of this is: what if it's just fine? Not even fine. What if it's good? What if it's better, actually, off of the combination of these things?
What if no more black swan events happen? Come on, we're due a year without one, right? One.
Yeah. What if nothing unpredictable happens after sort of like sort of every possible system we can introduce instability and unpredictability into? We have done that to the maximum by choice over the past 40 years. Sort of like pulling back the big slingshot, the big catapult, pulling that back. It's aimed directly at my own face and going, yeah, but what if the string snaps?
Oh no, not the big facial catapult. Actually, Alice, that does sound like something you would own.
It's I think it's a good way as well to think about, to try to think about black swan events as well, right? Unpredictable things happening, these bad things happening, is basically this is not about the unpredictable thing happening, but about unpredictable things happening and there being the mechanism to absorb its effects. Yes, unpredictable things happen all the time, and there is, and I think the way I interpret what you've said is, I think about that as us having removed our ability to absorb the effects of unpredictable events. And I'm sorry to the Economist, but it will take more than a PowerPoint presentation or a spiffy suit to compensate for that particular, let's say, deficiency in the way that we've set up the country.
Yeah, so, in Britain, look, we take the view, what's the point in preparing for an unpredictable event happening? What are the chances of an unpredictable event happening? Well, famously, nobody knows. And if they can't even predict an event, how are they going to make it happen? Predicting stuff is easy.
And this is exactly sort of like right. Statistical anomaly that like ordinary people who are not like statisticians are becoming increasingly aware of, because it's now, the 5th year in a row of hottest year in history. Again, or like you've lived through a couple of dozen once in 100-year weather events or something like that, and it's just like, oh, okay, well maybe these things have become like, maybe unpredictability has become more predictable to me. Lagging somewhere behind this are the brains trust of the Economist, who are just like, it's going to go back, it's going to go back to normal, we're going to have a lovely summer, it's not going to be too hot, nothing weird's going to happen. And it's gonna be fine because of the old people. The old people are gonna get jobs, and therefore it's all going to be
Well, because they have statistics brain, so they're like, oh, well, actually, the weirder things get, the sooner they'll go back to normal, because statistically, the weirdness is so unlikely that it must be just on the cusp of going back to normal. and every time it gets weirder, and they're like, which means we're even closer to things going back to normal.
These things couldn't possibly be correlated. The weirdness weakening these systems to prevent further weirdness couldn't possibly be correlated with further weirdness. No, sir.
Yeah, and there's a lesson here that is like being deliberately not learned, that normalcy is something that you have to actively maintain. You have to like sort of shepherd your flock of white swans if you want to like make sure that there's, it's at least rare that there's black swans, right? Like you have to maintain some sort of like institutional capacity, and meanwhile we're just like stripping bits of institutional capacity away instead.
Or creating laws that make it more difficult for the people trying to protect the institutional capacity to do that.
Well, because
get out of the way. We need to strip that institutional. Yeah, they're terrorists.
They're about to do Nurse 9/11 on Big Ben.
The other thing that I sort of that this makes me
Nurse
reflect
9/11
on,
aiming the plane at Big Ben and going, now this may hurt a bit. You may feel a slight pinch.
You know what this makes me think of, right? Is that I don't know if you've all been following Solana. It was a popular cryptocurrency, had a huge market cap. It crashed very low, and people are losing money trying to find the bottom of it because they're so used to the number being high that the number being low feels increasingly unlikely.
The lower the number goes, the closer it is to returning to normal.
It's the same thing as in the beginning of the pandemic when Hertz, the rental car company, went basically started filing for bankruptcy, and people were buying its stock because they were so used to the number being higher. And it's the same thing here, as you say, Alice. Right? Status quo is something you actively have to maintain. But I think generations of economic orthodoxy have been that there is just a status quo that kind of comes from God, the market, whatever you want to call it, and that it's something that we can just sort of snap back to if we just hold on.
Well, this is happening like internationally. Like, not to totally derail the podcast, but you may be aware that China has like abandoned, after mass protests, its zero COVID policy, and is now about to have, because they're not importing Western vaccines and their own sort of like denatured vaccines aren't as good, are about to have like this huge wave of COVID. And it's like the Chinese Communist Party's ideology, we've talked about this before, is almost entirely maintaining normalcy and like proactively maintaining normalcy. And if the guys who are like the sort of the constant gardeners, the guys who are like see themselves and their role in government as keeping shit normal all the time, if those guys have given up, what hope do we have in Britain, a country where we like our sort of like our ideology is like, is to get weird with it? What chance do we stand?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that a few things have been happening in Scotland to
That's true.
Let's say
sort of a perennial thing. Really, things do happen up here.
He said, segueing. There was one thing that I think it bears a little more talking about, but I don't think you know about this, Milo, but one of our predictions has come true, at least as a proposal in Scotland. Do you want to guess which one it is? Because I think you don't know.
This is ringing a vague bell, actually. No, I can't remember.
Yes,
I think I have heard about
9/11.
It's this, which is
world's loudest dong.
Had to get Philip Glass to compose that.
Which is,
I've also been watching Glass Onion.
The Scottish Greens are set to propose plans to ban sweet vapes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Perfect Green Party policy. Perfect.
Here's the thing, right? Britain is, Scotland too, within Britain, is a country that enjoys passing no fun allowed laws. Scotland, this particularly appeals to like the Greens and the SNP's sort of like social liberalizing mission of like minimum alcohol pricing or the sugar tax too, right? And I've hated all of those no fun allowed laws. This is one I can support. I finally support a no fun allowed law because I hate a sweet vape and they're ubiquitous. And if I can like not walk down the street and become enveloped in a cloud of like strawberry bubblegum sort of emanating from a 14-year-old, perfect. Thank you. Please do that immediately.
Alice?
Enforce this. Get the army to enforce this.
Get
I
the
should
Royal
be able to
Logistics
drop.
Corps to confiscate people's vapes.
I should be able to drop a tungsten rod from orbit on like anyone selling a sweet vape.
So would you support a tapenade vape?
Yeah, what if you were walking down the street and you got walked through like a cloud of lobster bisque? What about that?
Smoked mackerel pate vape.
Just a very savory. I support a savory vape as a sort of moderate reform. I think you have to like bear in mind that there are some directions that you don't want to go with it. Like there are a lot of savory flavors you don't want to explore. You don't want to walk through a cloud of sea salt vape, for instance.
that would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, the steak and potatoes vape, certainly, maybe. I support that.
I just think it's quite telling, in fact, that only after we published our idea for an olive tapenade vape, that all of a sudden the Scottish Greens seem to be saying, we'll take that one, Trashfuture podcast.
Add them to the master list of people who steal our ideas. It's the US
copying.
Postal Inspectors, BaFin, Interpol, the Scottish Green Party.
They're all cribbing
strangely
from
enough, the
our
Department of Fish and
hymn sheet.
Wildlife for their investigation of Greg Stubbe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently he's smuggling rare toads. Just kidding, for libel reasons. So basically,
He's
there's more
importing
things.
those toads entirely above board.
Yeah, we have no questions about the legitimacy of Mr. Stubbe's toads. Thank you.
Yeah, Greg
Not at this
Stubbe's
time.
toad operation is fully legal, as far as we're aware.
Which is, I wanted to talk. Another thing is happening in Scotland to close out the year.
Two things.
Yeah,
Fuck,
another
it's getting
Scotland
busy
got
up
it.
here.
Well, Scotland followed the classic sitcom storyline of having a small funny thing and then a big weird thing.
And Nicholas Sturgeon, sort of the Kramer of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, bursting through the door to Westminster.
Which is, and I'm aware we're a little late on this one, but it really felt like something that we had to discuss, just given everything, given our sort of forays into turf madness, is Scotland, as I'm given to understand it, has passed a law allowing it.
Scotland has passed
why don't you go ahead?
a minor administrative reform of how you recognize a change in gender. The sole effect of this is to make it slightly easier to change your birth certificate. It does nothing. However, because every turf group has insisted that through a sort of peculiar misreading of the law, that this is what allows trans women to like enter single-sex spaces, which it isn't. This has been the focus of huge protests.
Alice, I don't know. I always show my birth certificate whenever I go into a changing room at a store.
Yes, right. Of course you do.
Yeah.
And it's normal to have it like demanded of you.
Yeah, that's why I keep it folded in my breast pocket.
So this has been the focus
you'll
of like
find I belong here. if you want to look over my papers.
years and years of public consultation and protest and more public consultation. It's the most scrutinized law in Scottish history. And the upshot of this is that it passed after a long attempt at delay and filibustering sponsored by the Scottish Conservatives. And then a thing happened in the Scottish Parliament as it passed. Riley, would you like to summarize what went on?
Well, first of all,
Was it
I just
normal?
think we have to say
very.
thank you to the gender critical movement for preventing adults from coming into, let's say, public spaces and sexualizing them to make a political point.
Around children, especially. That's
around
very
children.
important safety consideration.
Yeah, indeed. When so what happened as this was being passed is that a sort of prominent gender critical person with a Twitter account called Gussie Grips.
Yeah, Gussie Grips.
Damn, that Gussie Grips.
Well, no, Milo, you make a joke, but that's, I believe, what her name refers to, because she is a sort of a campaigner for sort of pelvic floor exercise.
Yeah, she started out as a physiotherapist whose deal was like Kegels and like pelvic floor exercises. And from that sort of point, that singular obsession, that transformed into a different obsession, that of the trans
she's a
women.
scholar of Kegel.
Yeah.
I've been reading Kegel.
But her phenomenology led her to the understanding that trans women are trying to take her pelvic floor exercises away. And so Gussie Grips, which is, a name, Elaine Miller, I think her name is. But
Gussie stands for guy pussy, obviously.
No, that's exactly the opposite of what she wants. She wants the Gussie to be pussy. Like... Yeah,
but she's not thought about it.
But so she wants the Gussie to remain, sort of women only, and for it to grip also to a very strong, healthy vagina.
Sure.
So she got up in the Parliament after this passed, and she flashed her Gussie, at everyone, and they were including like supporters of the bill, opponents of the bill. There were children there as well. It was apparently a merkin, a pubic wig over a pair of tights. But as I understand it, both the police and the Scottish Parliament are now investigating this. To me, I don't care. I don't care if she gets arrested. I just think it's sort of... I'm very grateful to her for making the point about how fucking weird TERFs are better than I possibly could.
Oh, absolutely. It's I mean, I think there is sort of a the longer it sort of that it goes on, it does seem like it does get slightly more insane. But it also I think it highlights sort of one of the things I sort of bang on about, which is that if you start becoming a transphobe, it will take over the one relatively normal thing you might do.
Riley's Law.
Doing pelvic floor exercises or writing a beloved children's story set in a magic
pelvic
school or
floor
whatever.
Exercises transphobically somehow.
I'm sure she's found a way,
And then it will just take over everything until you're flashing Scottish Parliament to be like, this is what they do. this is you actually.
This is bypassing this law. You have sort of enabled sex crimes, and I'm going to prove it by doing one. Is like a fantastic piece of political theatre.
TERFism is fascinating because I think more so than any other right-wing political phenomenon, even though it's not one of the more popular ones, despite what you might think in the media, it's actually it doesn't poll that well with the populace, but it's just all of the people who do it are very high profile. But what's fascinating about it is just a madness rune. Everyone who gets into it, it completely takes over their life and it sends them absolutely bonkers. There's not a single TERF who hasn't completely lost their mind.
And of course, now we get into an interesting constitutional question because Rishi Sunak and the Home Secretary for that matter, have threatened to just flatly overrule this new administrative change. It's going to take a year to implement anyway, but they're threatening to procedurally overrule it as being incompatible with the Equality Act.
Remember that Economist article we read about 15 minutes ago? Hey, how's that looking right now?
Yeah, maybe things will just get better. I mean, I think this is also a good thing in the sense that I can't think of something that would motivate Scottish people to be less transphobic more than English people telling them that they have to. We sort of saw this with the Scottish Human Rights Commission.
It's the beautiful chess of Anglo-Scottish politics.
Exactly. Sort of that kind of spite and not wanting to be told what to do and dictated to. I think that will come in very.
The
very
Tories
handy.
need to start telling the Scots to leave the Union. This is the perfect 7D chess.
Yeah, you just need to sort of neg Scotland at the next election into maybe just fuck off then. Maybe rejoin the EU. We don't care. And this will then lead to a massive Conservative or Labour majority and, support for Remain.
But additionally, right, this comes back to another thing that I've been thinking about, right, which is that this is, again, by the numbers, not very popular except among columnists.
Yeah, and this is strange too, that Rishi Sunak's image of sort of moderation and sort of calm, quiet politics, that has survived without even a dent the idea of taking human rights legislation off of a devolved administration and blocking it because you don't like it. Something which is not particularly moderate or particularly calm, I would say. Doesn't seem to have made a difference.
But equally, reminded of this, there was a very popular idea, especially when sort of, Corbyn was in charge of the Labour Party, that it was the left-wing parties that were populated and staffed by isolated weirdos who are willing to appear like repellent oafs in public because of their odd ideological commitments that most of the public finds strange and off-putting.
Yeah, remember when
Almost
Corbyn got his
though-
pussy out at a conference? I don't know why he did that.
Yeah, the cussing.
Even then, it's
the cool bus.
Cool pussy. Yeah,
he was
like
my
the
favorite
opposite.
exactly. Oh, we all did it at the
We were
same
both
fucking
reaching
time.
for it, yeah.
But this is it's not, and it's not
Designed
just
a
the.
chair that looks like a.
I think he actually did that. But I'm reminded of this idea, and also it's not just the sort of TERFs doing their odd nonsense up in Holyrood, but also it's the Conservative Party as well, just becoming increasingly insular and talking basically to itself and its most ardent supporters. I wonder what's been described like that before.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Not
Strange.
the Tory party we know and love.
The Scottish Conservatives are now, and just a reminder for anyone who insists that Scotland is like more progressive than the UK, second largest party in Scotland is the Conservatives, and largely off of this culture war shit and the Constitution. And so, if you want an example of like a party that's like talking to itself, the Conservatives certainly, but the Scottish Conservatives, like within that, they're like doubling down even more on that.
So I want to sort of come on to. Don't worry, it's not going to be all British politics. We have a little fun thing at the end from one of our favorite little sort of ongoing projects, let's say. But there's a new sort of, and again, this is going to be a very good little sort of slice of, I think, actually Britanology as well, for all you international listeners, which is Labour has announced their new plan.
How many points does it have?
So far, just 2, but I'm sure that there will be more coming.
Bloody austerity.
Ein 2-Punkt-Plan. Sorry.
So Steve Reed, Shadow in Shadow Justice, has said, we have a new plan for dealing with antisocial behavior.
Shadow Justice.
Well, I mean,
That's
knowing
the
the
plan.
Labour Party, it's going to be both ineffective and also extremely authoritarian. So
We
I
have
think
hired the Batman.
Yeah, we've put the bat signal on the roof of Luna House in Croydon. I think maybe this is the time. We always talk to think tank people, right? And we always talk to think tank people on the basis that, like, ideas on the table, right? This is a policy proposal. Even if they don't take it, it's good to have the idea out there. It'll influence things, right? Maybe now it's my turn to be the think tank person and say, I've had an idea about this. I've had it for a long time. And that is, I'm just putting this out there, just leaving this on the table. Keir Starmer, if you're interested. The quiet car on trains. British Transport Police should be able to enforce that with grenade launchers. Now, I'm not going to say it's a panacea. It's not going to solve all the problems, but you can't say it wouldn't cheer you up. So I'm just leaving it there.
That's one of the ideas we're putting on the table, huh? Grenade launchers. Now, Alice, have you considered that there is a small issue with this idea? Is that for at least a very short period of time, the quiet car will be very loud indeed.
I've got noise cancelling headphones. It's fine.
Okay, fine. Good. Excellent. Problem solved. So basically remember a couple of things before we talk about this, right? Which is that the Labour have said that their route to office is through sort of suburban, older, white male Leave voters, basically.
Yeah,
right?
come
the
back to
Workington
Labour,
man.
right? Because your mortgage now costs £4,000 a second, so come back to Labour.
Or as I'm sure it will say on the poster, come back to Labour.
That's right. And it will be
We're
a Southern
connecting with
person
the
just
voters.
doing a voice. It won't be.
That's
It will
right.
be just be that. And also remember that.
Giant version of that building with Mussolini's face on it, but it's Keir Starmer wearing a flat cap. We're just going to put one of those up in every market town north
And there's
of
like
Watford.
a mining lamp on it for some reason.
But the other thing I was going to remind you, of course, is that overall the trend of crime in basically every city in every sort of like the North Atlantic country is it's down. It is the idea that there is a crime wave is a fiction.
Yeah, everyone's too depressed to do crime anymore. Plus, all the hours at the Amazon warehouse.
Or indeed, if there is crime, it's the kind of crime that we don't really class as crime, like wage theft and things of that nature, right? But
and this is why I'm holding this whippet.
And so bearing all that in mind, right, that the people who they need to get on side are already people whose pensions are expensive and their mortgages are expensive, but they've decided to do this one thing, with Alice, you very presciently have said, probably won't achieve its intended goal, but will massively increase petty authoritarianism.
Yes. Good.
Well, that's almost as good.
Is it okay? I'm going to try and brainstorm this here. Is it that as soon as you sign a mortgage, you get the powers of like a special constable? Like you have the power of arrest once you own a home?
Weirdly, not a million miles away.
Oh, great. Are we getting
constable.
British stand your ground laws?
No. That would require you to be sort of have the cojones to actually stand your ground. This is, I'm tattling on the teacher, and then I get to decide what happens to you.
Ooh.
Oh, fuck yeah, I did read about this. This is that they're gonna let like the victims of antisocial behavior decide the punishment, right?
Yeah, so basically,
but not in like a restorative justice way, in a like how many lashes do you get sort of way.
I love this. This is perfect Labour policy. It's sort of like Starmerism in a nutshell, right? We can defund the courts even more, so we don't have to like do anything approaching like a process of justice. Instead, we just like the policeman picks you up by your ear and like delivers the miscreant to like the nearest homeowner who decides. I don't know. I think it should be flensed, and then we just do that.
You're hung, drawn, and quartered. Your punishment is that you will be restricted to smoked salmon or tapenade vapes for the next 6 months.
No, fuck. This is so unjust. No, I mean, I think this will go over very well with voters. I think this is sort of a broadly well-considered thing electorally, because British people are tyrants and they love this. And like every fucking little sadist is going to go for this. Like huge Labour landslide on the basis that, an ASBO can now mean that if a kid kicks a football into your garden, you can choose to have him tonsured or whatever.
I'll give him a bald patch.
Yeah.
He can like has to wear some kind of like device called the heretic's crown or whatever that kills you after a day.
I'm putting him in the Iron Maiden.
Yeah, the things that American local officials in like small municipalities where they run unopposed get to decide to do, where it's like they sentence a guy for I don't know, not paying child support or whatever, and the order will be like, and you have to wear like a pink tutu and stand at this intersection for 12 hours or whatever.
Alice, I don't know if you're doing this intentionally, but you are essentially describing Maricopa County under Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was given this broad remit to essentially take vengeance on people who often, again, had like administrative issues, like unpaid parking tickets, they didn't show up for a bench, stuff like this. And this included stuff like having them work outside with inadequate heat protection.
Listen, if you have an unpaid parking ticket, it's only fair that the person whose parking space, like their house is next to that parking space, gets to decide how much cock and ball torture the police get to do to you.
I actually love the idea of like a guy getting his car keyed and the police coming around and asking him like how the offender should be punished. And he's like, what's the name of that thing where they put you in a sack with a chicken, a snake and a goat and then throw you in a river?
Yeah, if anyone does antisocial behavior to me, it's to be punished by scaphism. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I should be thrown off the Tarpeian Rock.
And
just in accordance with the Sharia, whatever I consider that to be.
Getting the vigiles to throw them off the Tarpeian. As a reminder as well, this is for antisocial behavior, which, for again American listeners, antisocial behavior is like
could be nothing.
It's
loitering.
It's not nothing, Alice. It's what if you're a group of 4 young people and you're standing around.
Yeah, what if that? I think we know the answer, and it's the Tarpeian Rock.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the Tarpeian Rock, I'm afraid.
5-point plan to throw like yobs off the Tarpeian Rock.
Yeah, it's 5 yobs, 1 point for
Every
each
person
yob.
under 16 in Britain gets thrown off the Tarpeian Rock.
Yeah, there we go.
Never did me any harm. Oh my god.
I'm sure, right? I'd get thrown off the Tarpeian Rock all the time. My father
Here's
wouldn't
the
take any of
specifics
our
of it.
shit. He'd throw us off the Tarpeian Rock as soon as we woke up. Oh, it was character building.
Here's
If you listen to music slightly too loud, you're going to get buried alive under the Forum Boarium, and that's
If
fine.
I catch you playing the nose flute at that volume again, you're going to be off the fucking Tarpeian Rock, son. No, yeah, he caught us dishonouring Vulcan. Threw us off the Tarpeian Rock. Yeah, we ate all his garum. Tarpeian Rock.
I'll explain what's being proposed specifically. So, Labour's proposal is to strengthen the use of community sentences, which they say would achieve a double win by tackling reoffending rates and, quote, giving a voice to victims. And to me, again, this smacks of the same kind of democratization talk that you would see in, like, a cryptocurrency that's like, we're democratizing syndicated finance or whatever. It's like, no, you just have a cryptocurrency. It's the same thing to me. Reed said, victims will be able to select the unpaid work that offenders carry out, so victims will see justice being done. And while currently community sentences can include useful work like clearing wasteland, decorating community centers, repairing churches, or removing graffiti,
painting the ground directly under the Tarpeian Rock.
Labour intends also to widen the scope of what can be considered community sentences. So what that basically says is we're going to create a new laundry list of petty revenges that you can take on young people you find annoying if you vote for Keir Starmer and his band of merry men.
Oh, it's going to be like playing Tekken. You get a list of like button combos that are different moves, but it's like antisocial behavior punishment.
Yeah, this is genuinely going to go over so well, is the problem. Like, this is, I hate to say it, but they may have, like, Labour scientists have worked after hours in the lab a long night, and they finally come up with a policy that I think will be genuinely popular with the British
Operation
electorate.
Vaporclip, where the Labour Party brought over all of the most boring German scientists to triangulate the most dull possible policies.
Yeah, so now if you like smoke a sweet vape or whatever, they get to like various responsible adults get to fire mortars at you while you run across the field, like that one Maya video. yeah.
No, it's a I look, my father found my birthday cake flavored vape in my nightstand, and now I have to like do the run away from the guys like in the movie Apocalypto.
Yeah. It's going to get executed with an anti-aircraft gun like those scare stories about North Korea.
I think the other thing to remember here as well is it's not exactly like everyone in Britain who loves this. It's just the people who are most empowered and taken seriously by our decrepit media and political system. It is all of the...
and they vote. With bumper stickers like, I throw yobs off the Tarpeian Rock and I vote.
Yeah,
it's
love me wife, 8 youths. Don't like it. There's the Tarpeian Rock.
Giant sort of like Tarpeian Rock bumper sticker next to one of those like 2 foot wide radiator grill poppies. That's the future.
Victims would sit on new community payback boards that would oversee community sentences and make sure that offenders complete unpaid work, which again is a bit like empowering, like
the
Sue
worst
from down the road.
Yeah. Range Rover mum is gonna like sentence you.
Exactly. She's going to sit on something called a payback board.
You know what though? In this sort of universe though, there's also going to be like the tiresome liberal person who's against the policy who'll be like on Question Time going like, well, actually, I think that the Home Secretary should be thrown off the Tarpeian Rock if they like it so much.
Just like,
and then they'll get like a smooted round of applause. Yeah.
And so these boards would be given the power to hold local services and companies accountable for failing to enforce the terms of community sentences in full.
Because like there is a sizable political constituency in this country, and the naming it the payback board is just so much clearer to me about this, that there's a sizable political constituency whose only political policy platform is, why hasn't the Prime Minister made the film Harry Brown real yet?
Yeah, it is quite a Jason Statham-ass line. I'm chairman of the payback board. And you're up for review, sunshine.
The payback board is like a 2x4 with a nail through it.
With which you Tarpeian Rock.
Goad people off the Tarpeian Rock.
If I don't throw a loitering youth off the Tarpeian Rock in the next 15 minutes, my heart's going to literally explode.
Interestingly, you described the payback board as a 2x4 with a nail in it. One of the punishments for listening to music on your phone in the bus is you do have to sit on the payback board. So this is the last bit.
Don't threaten Alice with a good time.
Yeah.
This is the bit that really makes it for me. Which is Steve Reed went on that his own experience of being robbed at knife point helped him to understand victims' desire for, and they actually used the word, retribution, saying, I know what it's like to be the victims of crime. I know how victims of crime feel when they want retribution, and I know how victims of crime feel when they don't want that to happen to other people ever again. I thought the point of a justice system was to remove that.
Yeah, it's not like Keir Starmer was ever, a barrister or anything, or a human rights lawyer. Like never sort of sat through any classes about, retribution's place in the justice system. But it's cool. We can go back to like blood money now. This is great.
Yeah, Hitman too. Yeah, well, the whole sorry, the whole thing with victims is. The reason why there's a system around this is that victims are very bad at deciding what the punishment should be for a crime because obviously they're usually quite emotional about what happened. And this is why they're generally removed from that process.
And I think there is like a as you say, for this reason, victims are typically quite separated from that process. And that's why things like victim impact statements, right? Or like having the option to do, some kind of like restorative justice, probably a good thing. That's probably like a good liberal intervention to make. Taking it out here to they should just be able to decide how many lashes you get. That's more problematic, let's say.
Yeah, they should be tied to a post and the victim should get 15 minutes in there with a baseball bat.
God, it is that, isn't it? It is like that thing that sun readers say about like nonces or whatever, where it's like, just give me like half an hour and it's like, oh, God. Great,
they're going to reanimate Roy Shaw and put him in charge of justice. No, they've ruined prison now because they don't let you near the nonces anymore. You want to hurt them, don't you? You want to get at them, but you can't now. They've ruined prison.
I think the way to understand, if you want to fit this into a larger political trend, it's that the best way to understand the politics of the last, however many years in Britain, depending on when you want to start counting from, but let's say the recent past, is that there has been an increasing tendency towards, I think, let's say, embracing the darker side of the self and valorizing the sort of innate human desires to hurt, to exploit, to take and to break things, essentially. That more than most other countries have chosen to hold those qualities up as laudable and sort of look with scorn and detest on anyone who would attempt to do something else. You can call it a kind of, it's a kind of realism that sort of says the only thing that can be treated with respect as an idea is that which we know to be hurtful, to be cruel, to be even short-termist, that anything else is kind of effeminate or liberal or unserious. And
or dangerous, as Corbyn was, mind you.
Indeed, and to put into context of like just the fact that this is the race now is between who can allow victims of victims of loitering youth to like get control of the whole army for 15 minutes a day, right? Who can get there fastest? Which party will be brave enough to nuke Croydon?
Yeah, who can make homeowners into the judges from Judge Dredd fast enough?
Well, we've had Dark Brandon. Are we going to get Donny Starmo?
Ooh, Dark.
Will he
Starmo.
be the one? Yeah, it's a good idea, isn't it? A powerful thought.
We have a few minutes left. I wanted to end on I watched Neom's 2022 year in review movie.
I just this second got a fucking ad for Neom.
Oh, yeah, everyone who listens to this show gets ads for Neom.
Advertiser. Yeah, a huge advertiser on Twitter.
Yeah.
One of the only ones.
Yeah, it's like people in a supermarket and then in a forest somehow. But they're like living rooms in a forest. And then robotic arms assembling something labeled the future. Great.
Where else are they going to assemble it?
Well, that is true, yeah.
A circle?
Oh, there's also
Come
people
on.
BMXing outside the supermarket.
Oh, they would never fly in Britain.
No.
Yeah, the progressive
right.
justice system of Saudi Arabia is like much more humane about these things, which
Yeah,
at this
they'd be
point may
thrown off the-
genuinely be true.
4,000 foot high skyscraper that's also 4,000 feet long.
Yeah, of course. No, so, and the thing is, that we missed one of the Neom zones when we last talked about
shit.
Neom, and I thought
It was the body zone,
behoove
with the
us.
giant where you could walk through the organs and stuff. The boy was next to it.
Yeah. Oh, if Neom got the boy, that would really, I'd move there.
Then we'd have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to go. We'd all have to take a picture with the boy. No, so they basically created a space, and I shit you not, this is what they say, for the yachting community.
People of
which is
yachts.
pretty fun. Yeah, people of yachts. I swear to fucking
Great
God,
floats,
that language. That language escaped its sort of it's a useful barriers and is just being used by the most repellent people in the world
Listen,
now.
if you can't do person-centered language for like super yacht owners, who can you do it for?
Yeah.
Really?
The yacht
Surely the
rock
weakest of
community.
us. Yeah.
So Sindala, which is the name of this new area, is an island. And
Just an oligarch who gets a super yacht with like a scale Tarpeian rock on it that you could throw people off.
Yeah, it's actually you dive off it into the ocean. It's really fun.
oh yeah, it's considered sort of like a grisly joke, you know, like I'm
Yeah.
loitering youth.
It is made of rock though, so it does sink the boat.
one of the oligarchs that we sort of like accidentally became too British from living here too long, like Abramovich or something, just getting the Tarpeian rock on there.
So Sindala, MBS said, "This is another significant moment for Neom. I'm sure it is, and a major step in the kingdom realizing its tourism ambitions under Vision 2030. Sindala will be Neom's first luxury yacht island and yacht club destination in the Red Sea."
Raising my hand here for a question.
Yep.
What are they doing that's weird or fucked up here? Is it going to be? Are we stacking the yachts vertically?
Are the yachts on the blockchain?
Yeah, does it like retrieve your yacht sort of like mechanically from a big parking structure? Like what's happening here?
Free Tarpeian rocks for all that are dropped from a sensible height of 300 feet onto your yacht.
I like the
from a
idea of
helpful
like
trebuchet.
Russian oligarch with Tarpeian rock on his yacht, standing at the top of it and going like, it is me, Robert Maxwell. Oh no, please, members of British Special Air Service, I will do whatever you want. Ah!
Well, his yacht's still around, which means there is a strong possibility that its current owner could have done Robert Maxwell bits, just like on the back of it, just like whoop.
You would
just
be
like,
tempted.
Kind of like, yeah, of course you would.
You feel like it's an ill-starred yacht to buy.
So you asked me earlier, what kind of impossible thing are they doing in Sindala? And
Yes.
I would say that MBS has once again defied our expectations by making this the first theoretically possible project in Neom.
Ah, okay. I mean, this is
Congratulations
the thing, right?
to MBS.
I've often thought that one of the possible outcomes of Neon was they would build some sort of aspect of it and then declare victory, right? And then say that the line was just a metaphor or whatever. So maybe it's just this. Maybe like they'll have like evicted those tribes and like killed the dissidents in order to build one marina in a place no one will ever go to.
It's entirely possible.
Oh, good.
So it's just a big series of luxury hotels and luxury service departments and berths and fine dining, right? All of the things that you would like if you were MBS, and that you'd want to have your own special little
Tarpeian rock on your boat.
have your own little special island where you can have fun with your friends, but no funny business.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a
your own
special,
specially secured floor of the hotel where you can have fun with your relatives.
Yeah, the weird thing is that suitcases are banned from this area.
But right, the And it's just something that, again, is a giant, expensive boondoggle, but is theoretically possible. The couple of bits of sort of impossible things here, of course, that like it's, I think, widely known that extreme luxury stuff is incredibly energy intensive and very, let's say, environmentally unfriendly. And they say, we will somehow preserve all the nature of this island and all of the beautiful marine life while also making this like incredibly high-end super luxe destination.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Robert Maxwell's yacht is like belching bunker oil into the atmosphere, like covering all the seabirds or whatever.
And another one is that it's going to have a golf course on the island that will be physical and real, and you play actual real golf, but will have so many sensors on it that apparently you'll be able to like it has special ball tracking technology, which again, like they should give that to the fucking Scottish turfs. Yeah, we got the Saudi ball tracking technology.
Golf and ball tracking. GBT.
But what I found funny about Sindala was that the guy in charge of it, whose name, sorry, but I realized I didn't have his name up and I didn't copy it on the thing. So forgive me, Nate, but you might have to cut this while I scroll to it. Here we go. Sorry. Here we go.
Oh, wait. Fuck. Sorry. An update about the yacht. I'm yacht pilled now. I'm down.
Yes.
I'm down the yacht. Right. The yacht, which is now called the Dancing Hare, but which was formerly the Lady Ghislaine and the Lady Mona Kay, was built in 1986 for Emad Khashoggi, who didn't actually buy it in the end, and Robert Maxwell bought it, died on the yacht famously, and was then owned by an Arabian businessman. And it is now owned not by Trump, who owns a similar yacht, which is actually what they were going on about in that article. It is owned by the former wife of Rupert Murdoch, Anna Murdoch.
Hell yes.
Very auspicious for media moguls, this yacht.
Yes, yeah. Well, I guess we know how Rupert Murdoch's going to die, which is positive. Being thrown off a Tarpeian rock.
So here are a series of questions and answers about Neom's most, again, like quote-unquote sensible project from Anthony Vivesh, the Chief Urban Planning Officer. I've picked, there's 10 of them. I've picked 3 very fun ones. I'm going to read the first question to you now. Saudi Arabia is now one of the fastest growing economies in the world, with a young population and a visionary leader looking to position Neom at the forefront of growth. How excited are you to be part of the new future?
I get a sense of the sort of interview technique here. Yeah, it's great. Did he say it's great? Or did he push back on this? I would be surprised.
He said, in short, it is very exciting. The country has a leader under 40. Cool. Wow.
Just sort of like, how many of these questions are hyping up MBS, out of curiosity?
So there are in fact 10 of these questions. I've picked 3.
I'm excited to like learn how the first Russian oligarchs are going to commit suicide in Neom.
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
He put his entire head down in front of the like high-speed monorail that goes down the line. Tragic, unforeseeable.
My other favorite question that he's asked is the following question, which again just starts with a long sentence. The world received news of Sindala in a hugely positive way, but there is a small percentage of naysayers. What do you say to those who have yet to be convinced?
Why is this written like it's the Quran? It's really like winding old-fashioned speech.
Received news of this written in like Fushar. Like it's very strange.
But in an ablative absolute.
Yeah.
Came down from the mountain and turned into a flame, and that flame burns in the fireplace of
Truly,
of
they will
Neom's.
be amongst the losers. Yeah.
but the haters and the losers rejected his message.
Yeah, genuinely, right? Because like the most English translations of the Quran, like use the word losers for like I don't know, like sinners or like people who are gonna not get into heaven, right? And it's very difficult to read an English translation of the Quran that doesn't sound a little bit like it's in Donald Trump voice. Like every so often you'll get a line that is like, truly they will be amongst the losers, and you'll be like,
and then the Prophet Muhammad, very big guy, one of the biggest guys of all time, actually.
Well, my message to those people is to come and visit us once we open Sindala. for those people who are in the yachting community but skeptical about Sindala, when they do, they will see with their own eyes how incredible it is in this part of the world.
And, if they don't, then they're going to see the, secret floor of the Hilton, which is also very nice.
Yeah. So the third question I've chosen to round off this fine New Year's episode is, how is life at Neom for you on a daily basis? To which
sort of a very gun visible at edge of shot. How is life? How are you enjoying continuing to experience it?
This is, we work hard, but we are treated very well.
I am being treated well by my captors. I'm holding today's newspaper for no reason. I just like reading it, like reading the funny pages.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
like being photographed with the newspaper because it brings out the color of my eyes.
That's right. And if I seem like haggard or distressed in any way, that's just because of how much fun I'm having. It's very tiring here. So much so that I had to actually handcuff myself to this radiator to calm down. Actually, something he and I have in common.
No, actually, I don't feel like moving my index finger from behind today's newspaper. There's nothing to see about it.
I've not been kidnapped. I'm just reading this great article by Kay Wiggins in the Financial Times.
Well,
this orange jumpsuit is what I normally wear around the house. It's my comfies.
That is as good a place as any, I think, to end the first 2023 episode of TF that has been recorded in 2022.
Yeah.
None of us have been kidnapped.
We're going to move the podcasting headquarters to Sindala, where we will join the global yachting community. So everybody, please join the $10,000 a month tier on Patreon, which is send TF to Sindala to join the global yachting community.
Yeah, you can
you'll get
sail your yacht directly up to the Hilton and through a sort of barred window and some heavy curtains. We will do the podcast to you from there.
Yeah. No, the coppers came around and asked us what we want done with the people illegally pirating the bonus episodes of Trashfuture, and I said, have them beheaded by ISIS. They said, that's no problem, sir.
Or alternatively, there will be a Patreon tier just called Yacht, and it is one yacht per month.
Yacht.
Yacht.
The Maxwell tier of the Patreon.
Dear
where
Robert
you can
Maxwell,
get thrown off a boat.
If you're out there, which you may still be, against all the odds, we have a tier for you.
I want to see, the fucking cowards at Call of Duty need to put a fucking flashback mission in the next one where you throw Robert Maxwell off a yacht.
Soap.
Okay,
This
all
deck
right.
can get quite slippery.
We've all got stuff to do. You've got things to do out there in podcast land. So we, and by we, I mean probably us from Australia, we'll see you on the bonus in a couple of days.
I think I'm very quiet on that one. Sorry about that.
Bonus.
That's right. But happy holidays, happy New Year. And here's to a year where maybe everything fixes itself.
That's right. Here's to the Economist.
Yeah. It's going to be fine. It's supposed to be fine. Don't like it. There's a Tarpeian rock.
All right. And don't forget also, I'm going to try to make a habit of doing this again. Our theme song is Here We Go by Ginseng. You can find it on Spotify. Listen to it early. Listen to it often. Plus, we have a Patreon.
Yeah, because if you don't, Ginseng can decide what to do with you. And it's not going to be pleasant.
No, indeed.
Yeah.
And don't forget, there's a Patreon. It's $5 a month if you don't have a yacht. So do check that out. Anyway, we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.